So if you or a loved one are due to have a hemicolectomy, don't worry, I'm going to explain what to expect before, during, and after that surgery. I had it myself when I was 16 years old. I've been living with Crohn's disease for about 20 years, so I'll walk you through everything. So there's the right hemicolectomy and the left one. One is where they will take the worst part of the colon out and then reattach it. The left one, I believe, is where they'll take the end of the colon again and remove that and probably do the post-op and things like that as well. So a hemicolectomy itself, it's about removing a section of the colon that's been affected by cancer, Crohn's, things like that. I myself had one for Crohn's. There's about 6 inches of my colon that were really, really bad. It made me very ill in my last part of school. When I was 16, they tried everything else and there was just no other way. I had to have the surgery. So beforehand, in terms of the preparation, I imagine there would have been a special diet of some kind, probably some medication changes to get you prepared for it. They'll probably make sure that your bowels is clear as possible. So I can imagine that they may want to flush you out in that respect and probably do a little bit of fasting before the procedure. I think that's usually about 24 hours beforehand. I myself remember going into the Victoria Infirmary and it was kind of like a post-World War styled ward. It was quite surreal in that respect, and I had a very good consultant who was just absolutely fantastic and knew how to put you at ease about the procedures and really, really helped to connect you to put you at ease through something which is quite significant. And it really was. I was really glad he was the consultant. So generally for the procedure itself, as you can quite imagine, you're going to be put to sleep. I remember being put to sleep myself and went in for the surgery. I think it was about 4 hours long. Of course, remember waking up and coming to, and my mother was there. Generally what they'll do before the procedure as well is that there is a chance that you'll get a stoma bag. So it was very strange when the doctors came in before I got put to sleep and they drew these black marker X's on certain parts of my tummy, which is probably where they would have put the stoma bag had something went wrong. I imagine it's just something to be prepared for. The surgery, as I understand it, is quite keyhole sort of thing. So my scar is around my belly button. It's just like a little key where they obviously go in to remove what they need to and then essentially tie it all back up again. So the recovery is probably where the hardest part starts. For me, when I came back into the ward after the surgery, I didn't have any stomach muscles, or they were in very bad shape because they've been cut through. So when they essentially moved me from one bed to the other, they said, look, don't try and lie back using your muscles. Let us lie you back and trust us. Otherwise, it'll be very painful. So obviously they'd stitched me up. There was this bit of plastic over obviously where the incision had been made, and they'd stitched me back up. So I had to be very careful there. Generally, don't be surprised if you get a catheter, because essentially the bowels and that end of it is all shut down. So I did have a catheter in. Of course, you've got plenty of IVs. Morphine is what I got for pain relief. And then you have this little tube that goes up your nose into your tummy, so that if they need to drain fluids from your tummy, they do it that way. That part of it for me was the most uncomfortable part of it. In fact, after a day, I just begged them to remove it, and they did. So I was just miserable with that in my nose and into the tummy, along with everything else being wired up. The rest of it I could cope with. So yeah, in terms of obviously food and things like that, you don't really eat during sort of this first 7 days. You'll probably keep your hydration going, start sipping fluids. My bowels did suddenly reactivate after a few days, so I was backwards and forwards to the toilet quite a lot. That was certainly an interesting time because I didn't get a lot of sleep. But after like 7 days, it all settles down. If everything's went well, after the week is done, you will get to go home and recover. And generally, you'll start to eat things again. And it's all just slow and in moderation. The whole recovery, I think, takes about a few months. It was definitely a couple of months at least before I was back at school again. It was definitely surreal for me because I had to take care of my wound. I couldn't do anything too strenuous for at least the first few weeks. So yeah, other than that, you can't really bath or shower for the first week either. That's the only thing I generally remember. I was allowed to eat jelly babies, and because the only thing I could eat was jelly babies, I can't eat jelly babies today because I ate too many jelly babies during the recovery. It's like if I don't see another jelly baby again after that procedure, it'll be too soon. If you want a more complete story about my experience with this, I do have that available on the channel as well. But I thought if I do a specific video about this particular surgery, it might help at least one person to put their mind at ease, or at least prepare them for what they can expect. It's something that defined me in more ways than one, gave me a lot of courage from someone who is very shy generally, because here I am making YouTube videos about it 20 years later. So yeah, I guess that's all I've got from me here. If you like what you've heard, or if it's helpful, or if you've had a similar experience, feel free to let it in the comments.